Welcome, guys, to the Enlighten with me, Ronny. Today I have Jessica Rose again, my first guest, also back again to talk about the vaccines and COVID and look into what's happened since we last talked. And I think it's half a year ago, I think. So I was looking at your Substack and I saw some big things that had been happening. So how are you? How have you been?
Good. Hacking away, trying to figure out a little bit more about what's going on with the biology. I got to go to a couple of conferences, which was nice. I took advantage of the fact that in some cases you're allowed to travel without restriction now. So I don't think that's going to last long. So I was taking advantage. Yeah, things are okay for now.
That's,
Neutral.
yeah, that's good. I saw the big boys had you on the stage. Yeah, I don't know what to do about those kids. But yeah, I was looking at some. I think it was Del Big Tree. Did you go with him somewhere or? Yeah, I think he mentioned you.
Um, that's nice. Well, there was a conference in Bath that I spoke at, but I didn't attend in person. I hadn't gathered up the courage to travel at that point, or I don't know, there was something preventing me from going. So I didn't get to meet him in person, unfortunately, but yeah, it was the first gathering of the World Council for Health to plot a better way forward. And there were a lot of amazing people there. I kind of regret not going in person. Robert Malone was there and Geert van den Bosch. And anyway, yeah, the list was very long. There were lots of amazing speakers. So yeah, I recently just completed a trip in Portugal and Spain. I kind of combined work and play. There was a conference in Portugal that I was invited to speak at. So that also had some powerhouses in attendance. Yeah, it's I suppose, the reach is getting bigger. That's my hope. I mean, I'm still doing this, and so are you. I'm still continuing to talk. It's just it's not really only about, what's going on in VAERS anymore, because I mean, for all I care right now, I know people are going to be like, what? But it's like they could take VAERS down now and it wouldn't matter. We have all the evidence we would ever need to provide proof of safety signals coming out of VAERS in the context of these products. You know, that's if they haven't figured it out by now, then it's because they don't get it or address the concerns in the form of doing some kind of causality assessment, et cetera, then they simply don't care. So yeah, we're talking a lot more, and by we, I mean just I suppose the people I've been talking to about the CBDCs now, the central digital bank currency issue, which is, I mean, that's the reason that all of this happened, right? I've been saying that from the start. It's the segue to the digitization of the human. And I actually just watched a really frightening interview with someone named, just a second, now I lost it. Just a second, I'm going to find out his name.
Yeah. I can jump in 1 second because it's funny you mentioned Robert Malone because I was listening to him today and it's just to see how the progress he's going from just be a scientist. Now I listened to him on the high side chats and he went deep with the World Economic Forums and CBDs as you mentioned and stuff like that. So he would be like a conspiracy guy, but he just reads the news as everybody should. So it's funny to see how
Yeah,
it progress.
it's funny because yeah, exactly. I don't know if you listened to my talk in Bath, but that's exactly what I started. Can you hear that?
You have
There's
a
thunder and lightning.
Okay, no, no,
Really dramatic.
it doesn't pick up now.
Oh, it's great. I love it. Anyway, so Thunder and Lightning, I just love it. It's like Mother Nature, like having a hissy fit. I love it. Releasing her energies. Wow, and it's pouring. So yeah, I started my talk by saying exactly what you just said. I can't believe I just heard Robert Malone of all people talking about the WEF. I mean, what planet are we living on? But that's the planet we're living on. If you have awareness of what's actually going on now, it's like every single conversation can be had to involve these globalists, not just the WEF, but you know, the billionaire class that's basically trying to enslave the rest of us. So yeah, I was watching this interview with this guy named Aman Jabi. Now, I don't know who he is. I never heard of him before, but my partner actually said I should watch this. So I did. It's called The Final Lockdown, an interview with that Z person. Anyway, he's an ex Silicon Valley guy, and he used to design lights, basically robot lights, these kinds of things, optics. Okay, so he's very, very into the elements of the infrastructure that was put into place and still is being put into place to allow the constant surveillance and monitoring and data gathering from us. So it's very interesting. It's very scary. I believe every word he says, and he actually gives a presentation with slides. So it was a very effective presentation in my eyes. It's like I've gone beyond the point where I hear something and my immediate brain says, this is hogwash. What are you listening to? And going past that, because that's the programming, right? That
And
am I back?
yeah, you're back. So you were saying
Yeah,
the brainwashing that you need to talk to yourself about it. This is not, yeah, the unwashing. That's a nice word for it.
I gotta make my brain dirty again. We all have to revert to childhood and get dirty brains. Yeah. So I like that. So anyway, it's just it's funny that I have to almost go through this process every time to just acknowledge the simple fact that it's ignorant not to acknowledge that that's where all of this tech is going. I mean, it sounds crazy that we're going to be digitally enslaved, but that's where this is going. There's no doubt about it. I mean, even if we manage to gather small communities together to avoid participating in it, it's still going to exist. It's kind of like it's built into humanity, it seems, to destroy ourselves. And so we just decided to do it by bringing AI into our existence.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. But when you talk about this stuff, it gets easier. The problem is you need to put the brakes on sometimes. I actually had this question for you. I was wondering on a conspiracy like zero to David Icke. Where are you at the moment? Do you know David Icke? So if you would put yourself on the scale to zero and to David Icke, are you like a 5, 6, or are you trying to just keep it?
Oh, you mean? Oh, I see.
So how much?
I thought you were asking me what sorry. I thought you were asking me how much or what I think of David Icke.
Yeah, no,
which is
no.
It's an interesting thing to ask me.
No, not him. Like yourself. How do you see yourself today? Are you like starting to look at the Federal Reserve and stuff like that, or just keeping it to the digital IDs and COVID and CBDCs?
What was the first thing you asked? Am I starting to look at what?
Like the Federal Reserve, the central banks, how the money doesn't even mean anything. It's just fake from the start. or something like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it is. The fiat currency that we've been using isn't backed by anything, so it is fake. But basically, but I'm not a finance person. It's just I don't know how to answer your question because I'll just tell you what I think of him. Well, first of all, my reaction to David Icke before was very kind of visceral and would usually be in tandem with laughter. Okay. Because, you know, he's talking about lizard people and stuff. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's how I used to feel. But after, and I think he's also evolving as well, by the way. After listening, like I've been through a big process of self-change in the last 2.5 years. I realized something really important because of Trump, and I'll tell you that story in a second. But I just don't feel like you can criticize anyone unless you at least know what's coming out of their own mouth. And then you can kind of form an opinion about them and make counter arguments if you disagree with them based on what they said themselves. So that's what I started doing with David Icke. And I was like, wow, I don't disagree with a lot of what he says. I don't agree with all of what he says, but he definitely makes a lot of sense sometimes when he speaks, especially about this globalist crap. I mean, that guy's been saying stuff like this for a long time. So I find him to be a very interesting human being, and he's so interesting to me that I would love to speak to him, just me and him one day. I've spoken to him on Zoom calls, but not, it wasn't personal, so I didn't get to actually find out who he is. But yeah, my turnaround, reinvestigating my approach to emotional responses to everything, which I think everyone needs to do in the face of what's happened, because I think we're all too damned emotional right now, is because of Trump. I was on Facebook forever, and I would open up Facebook and there would be something that some idiot who got paid to would put there about Trump to incite the exact reaction that I would have just by looking at the screen of my computer first thing in the morning. And it just hit me one day. I was like, this is completely controlling me. This is worse than my old smoking addiction. I have been programmed to have extreme stress responses to these visual images or these words based on shit that is probably not even true. So I was like, one of those people, I literally was one of those people who would call Trump like the orange blob of horror or something like that. And so I had to do a backup on that. On it had nothing to do with him, but he was the trigger for some reason. On so many things, it's like I have to start really thinking about why I'm responding the way I'm responding. If something is making me upset, for example, and find out if that has merit, if it's logical, or if I'm just being triggered by propaganda. So it's like everything that I'm talking about with people right now is much more about that. And it's not that the COVID nightmare has ended at all, but damn, I mean, data-wise, it just feels like we're kicking a dead horse all the time. I mean, how many freaking ways and how many different times can we say the injections are causing excess deaths? You know, how many more times can we say that?
Yeah, that's true. That's what I'll be saying too. I'm trying to shift over to the climate change issue because that's how they're gonna bring in the IDs and digital to currencies, I think, because they also moved on. They can't take COVID in and come and tell you to, or maybe they can because they're now on the G20. They came out, the Indonesian guy that said
Yeah, climate change is the new COVID.
yeah, it seems like it. Or they just brought it back because it was big before and then COVID come in and took 2 years and then they just went back to it.
Yeah,
And
no one would have freaked out enough about the climate, you know, in order to do what they managed to do to people you know, that they had to bring in a pathogen because no one's going to inject themselves against the climate, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a hard sell. You need to take a vaccine so you don't get
You know what?
sunburned.
Not sure anymore. Here, you need to take these injections to up your I don't know, your whatever the hell they would sell you on. I mean, people really love the fast, you know, easy solution thing. I'm not putting people down. I'm just saying that's how we seem to be as humans. But yeah, it's
Yeah, one colleague it was yesterday, yeah, he sat down next to me and he was like, so yeah, I have 3 shots and I got COVID and they told me I'm fine for a year now. I don't need to come back for another shot for a year. And I was like, dude, are you still taking this shit? And it's so crazy. I don't
did he
even know
tell
what.
you why? Like, did he have a justification other than someone was telling him he had to?
I'm guessing the doctor said something that he's fine for a year now, then he can come back and take a booster, I guess. But I don't
But
see how it's even possible, but because even the news here in Finland is saying don't take the fourth, so I don't know. It's weird.
oy, oy, oy. I don't know. I have to wonder what the effect on some people of having so many repeated doses of toxic shit is. I mean, to your brain. And I'm not being litigious here. I'm being serious. Like there's a lot of neurological adverse event reports, like across the board. So I really wonder what it's having on even decision making processes. Like, and I know a lot of people who would be like, yeah, you're right about that. I know someone who's like completely changed and become, you know, like much more zombie-like and compliant since they started taking more. Anyway, it would be very hard to prove that, but yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
that
understand
that
it.
that's a theory I also have had in mind. If it might change how they're thinking, if it's that even a
Yeah.
thing, I don't know. It's gene therapy, so I guess.
I don't see why it wouldn't be because like we know so little about the brain. It's so complex. And what we do know is that the lipid nanoparticles cross the blood-brain barrier. And so they are depositing their payload, and therefore we're getting massive amounts of foreign toxic protein in our brains under certain, you know, for certain people. And or it's being routed to the brain. Idea what the effect of that would be. None. um so yeah, I really think that there is cause for concern in terms of neurological impairment. You know, it's interesting. If I'm still here, I know I went out for a second. I was looking up, can't remember what movie it was. I saw a movie and there was footage, multiple footage of, oh God, I hate thinking about it and talking about it. The people who dropped, either dead or just dropped to the ground. This is a common thing apparently, but there were multiple footages of people looking to their right, like up and over their right shoulder, like something was
Yeah,
there.
it's did you watch the Died Suddenly? They had like 10
Oh, it was
people.
that one? Yeah, okay, anyway. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can talk about that too. But anyway, they're looking up to the right, I noticed, and then doing spins, like they're trying to like kind of get away from something, and they have an absolute look of terror in their eyes, and then they drop. It's almost like they die from fright. And so I'm like, what the and so I went into VAERS and I pulled out all the deaths, and I double or cross-checked for hallucinations, because hallucinations are also a thing in VAERS with the COVID shots. And I only found 10 that were cross-linked, but I did do that lately because I think, wow, it can't be a coincidence that even 5 people did exactly the same thing. Like, what the hell is going on there? Do you have any ideas or theories or?
No, I have the exact same reaction when I was looking at the documentary. I was like, it seems like they are seeing something and getting scared shitless
Right?
and dying. Especially the
Exactly.
one guy that he fell over some empty water tanks because it took longer for him. He was like and stumbling backwards
Yeah, he
and
did like 3 spins or something, right?
yeah,
Like something was coming down on him, and yeah, weird. So like these people are hallucinating, which is clearly a neurological like dysfunction, unless they're actually seeing something, which is, that's not my field, but it's very wow, that's really interesting. And if I had a background in neuroscience, I would dig deep into that one because that's like what would be inducing hallucinations? I don't know what part of the brain even that that is involved with that. I'll look it up after this podcast. I really will because that's interesting to me.
yeah,
So what did
it's
you think of that movie?
I found it interesting. I don't know. I remember the first guy they talked to. He said it wasn't everybody that was jabbed that had the same issue. So I was like, okay, so can it be both the jab and COVID that making the clots? I don't remember the number he said, but he had a few unvaxxed people that had also some clots. So I don't know really what to think. But yeah, it seems to be a massive issue. And
Yeah, I think that was part of the storyline of the SARS being a bioweapon. And I don't disagree that a lot of the adverse events appear to or the side effects or whatever of either having the infection or the injection they're similar to a certain degree, but the broadness, the range of adverse events associated with the injections is way bigger. I mean, and it makes sense because you can't compare the two things when you're talking about dose of proteins or pathogens or whatever you want to call them. There's no comparison. I mean, so anyway, yeah, there were elements of it that I liked. I enjoyed the footage. And that's about it.
yeah, the scene when they went in and actually filmed the bodies when they pulled out it was pretty gruesome.
Yeah, when it squirted.
Yeah, yeah, the last one it was like they popped something and it's,
Oh, it was just the pressure was built up so much because of the plug. So when they pulled out the plug, it was
okay, yeah,
because they used the machine to like force the fluid through, and so like the fluid in the vessels is probably under a lot of pressure or high pressure because of this machine. So I guess yeah, I actually flinched when that happened. I love that stuff. I actually watch like surgeries and stuff for fun, basically just to learn how to do them if I ever have to. So anyway, yeah.
it's when you said you're watching surgeries, like I'm like that's a different hobby or
Yeah, I have some weird interests. Although, it's all about learning. I want to know as much as I can about everything, and I'll never know enough. It's very frustrating. I feel like I can endeavor to learn as much as I want, but yeah, man. Then I start thinking about the benefits of being hooked up to an AI, and the thing is, it's like I'm not opposed to that idea, but I don't want some billionaire psychopath to be controlling the buttons, you know what I mean?
yeah, that's the issue. Who's controlling the techniques of the AI? And then that's why Elon is saying he wants to build it because he wants to have control because he sees himself as a good guy.
I wonder if everyone sees themselves as a good guy.
Apparently, because now with this Sam Bankman Fried that took some money from people. They started talking about, I didn't know this, but they had some kind of a religion in Silicon Valley where it's you need to make as much money as you can and just give it away. So that's the same thing as someone that's trying communism do. They kill people so others can be in the divine or whatever you want to call it. So I
Yeah,
guess
that's the cult of effective altruism. Look that up,
that's
people. It's a cult. And that's who's like that's the cult, the religion of a lot of people who are making a lot of the decisions for all of us. Like the fact that anyone would ever call Gates a philanthropist or an altruist is so beyond me. Like, are you kidding me? No.
yeah
So
that
yeah, that's an interesting.
he has a super good PR team because every time you bring him up, you have at least one guy in the room. Oh well, he's the best guy in the world. I'm like, well, maybe not.
Yeah, it's because of those sweater vests. No one who wears a sweater vest could possibly be evil.
No.
I'm so funny.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's
this
a
this
interesting strategy to put on some casual clothes so you don't look like you're evil. Then you can do more stuff.
yeah,
Apparently,
yeah,
I guess Sam did the same.
yeah.
And it's
The
interesting
portrayal of the
because,
image.
yeah, I was listening to Lex Friedman's podcast and he had some billionaire guy on. And he was saying he likes the guy that sits quiet for 2 years, the geek, and then when he says something, it's like revolutionary. And I think they looked at Sam the same way. They was like, how is this guy coming in here with baggy clothes and whatever he has picked up from some random shop, and they're like he's disrespecting them, and they like it for some reason.
Yeah,
It's a weird thing.
yeah. It's very weird. I know. The thing that really annoys me about him and that little girlfriend of his, the ex, is that I think they're both very, very well aware of what they were doing. I think it's reflected in some of the messages that they sent on over social media. And I think they're both like genuinely really intelligent human beings. So, I think you don't really have to have a high level of intelligence to kind of put two and two together. Like when you learn the family histories and the history between these two people, and the FTX story, it becomes pretty obvious that the whole thing was kind of a setup and a scam. In my opinion, it was designed that way in order to cause people to lose faith in cryptocurrency. I might be totally off on that, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
all a
with
part
you.
of the bit.
I said
I
the
think.
same thing the same day as I saw the news. I was like, okay, here comes the CBDC, and it was
Right.
later that day. New York Central Bank announced the 12-month CBDC trial. So I'm like,
Later that day, right? Later on that day. Yeah, I know, right? Like if you're paying attention at all, I mean, it looks it's just so obvious. But yeah, you really should watch that interview with that guy I mentioned, Aman Job. Here, I'll send you a link. There you
yeah,
go.
send me the link and I'll look it up when
I
I'm done.
forgot it's like so possible here. There you go. Watch that when we're done. You'll really like it. Well, it'll terrify you in a good way. I mean, if there is a good way to be terrified.
So
Anyway,
he built the system that we're using, or
he was involved in a lot of the optical tech. So yeah, he's like, well, he claims this role, and by his presentation and by his language and his mannerisms, I believe he is who he says he is. It's always really important to make assessments like that these days, because like there are a lot of imposters, and I'm not saying he's not one, but I don't think he is. He seems pretty genuine. And what he was saying was it was instructive, actually. Like, basically what we're all saying about a way out of the situation is to go local and to like physically remove the infrastructure. Because the people who are even running the show in small communities, they don't give a shit about the people in those communities. If they did, they wouldn't have sold the communities out and put up all these LED lights every 30 feet or so. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's good in that way, because it gives a bit of hope as to the actions that people can take to like, even if it happens, to kind of stay out of it. You know what I mean? Because I mean, yeah, maybe they will be able to control most of us, but there have to be small pockets of humans left after this that are kind of living the way that they always did. Kind of like the Quakers, or
What did you say? The Quakers?
the Shakers.
Who are the Quakers? I never heard that
So
one.
yeah, isn't that what they're called?
I don't know. Just a new
They're
word for
those
me.
just let me. They make brooms. They make really good brooms. I bought a broom from a Quaker.
Okay.
Okay, let me read you what they are. Members of these movements, the Quakers, are generally united by a belief in each human's ability to experience the light within, or to see that of God in everyone. And they live very simply, no technology. They exist today, like, still, as they were. They're, I think,
Oh, it's
just let me
the
figure out.
Amish people, kinda.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Same kind of thing. There's also the Shakers. And let
The
me just
Quaker and the Shakers and the Amish. So we have at
Quakers
least
and the
three.
Shakers. Yeah.
Nice. Three groups that we should contact immediately and ask for how to join.
You know what? I visited the Amish. I can't remember in which US state. I should really remember this. There's a big community somewhere in the northern part of the states. And I gotta tell you, I have great memories of hanging out with them. They thought we were aliens. Like, the received perceptions that they had of me and my partner were very um they were very curious about us. Um, not in a who the hell are you way, but in a wow, who the hell are you way, like more in a questioning way. And they actually had beautiful products. They make everything themselves, and they're just self-sustaining peoples. No tech, like I said. Well, no, of this bullshit tech. But yeah, I did buy a broom from them, and it was the best broom I ever had. And yeah, they make all sorts of food products, and other kinds of products that people really want to buy. So they're kind of like a independent part of human society, but also they contribute. So yeah, I was I'd choose them over the freaking Matrix designed by the billionaires
Yes, for sure. I'm with
any
you there.
day.
And
I don't want to go into a digital.
no, and most of the religious people I'm talking to, I'm like, yeah, why not? They're more with me than anybody else these days. So before I let you go here, let's see, what do I have? Yeah, I was looking that you had been writing about they have started to remove data from VAERS now. How
Yep.
much have they taken away? Do you know?
Well, it's a weird story. So there are two data sets that you can download from VAERS that are publicly available. There's the domestic data that are like the reports made by American citizens within the US, and there's the foreign data, which for the most part are reports filed by people living outside of the states to pharmaceutical companies directly, and then the pharmaceutical companies bounce those into VAERS. So they're valid VAERS reports, but recently, actually last Friday, because Friday is VAERS Day, me and everyone else who's analyzing this data noticed that the foreign data set file size was really small. So we're like, what you talking about, Willis? So you open up the file and we're all trying to figure this out at the same time. And it didn't take me long to notice that the number of IDs hadn't been reduced. So they didn't take out people, but they took out data. So then we found this disclaimer, Liz Wilner found this disclaimer on the VAERS website that actually says that they're going to do that. Some European regulator, which is, okay, who are you? Demanded from the CDC to remove the symptom text, which is all the stuff that the doctor or the reporter would write that has pertinence and relevance that isn't in one of the fields. And also allergies and meds and all this important data for all the European entries in the foreign data set. So what ended up happening was that over 100,000 people had all of that data removed. So I remembered not long ago that that about 100,000, a little more, of the reports in the foreign data set were the MHRA reports, the yellow card reports. And I'm like, what are they doing in here? I still don't know, because they're supposed to be in the yellow card system, as I understand it. Why are they in the VAERS system? So maybe I don't have that exactly right, but I feel like they shouldn't be in VAERS. So I checked. And the very same reports that were eviscerated data-wise were these yellow card reports. So essentially, the yellow card reports were eviscerated, removed. I don't know how you want to say it. So there's this ongoing story now about what happened there and why this demand to remove these. And I've also heard that these reports didn't get transferred from VAERS to yellow card. They just got removed, period. So they're just kind of like gone. And the reason why this kind of bothers me is that a lot of things analytically change because of these reports being removed. So the thing that's most important is the dose 3 response for myocarditis. So when you look only at the domestic data set, as you're well aware, I've shown this chart a million times, there's this dose 2 response in young kids in the context of the injectable products. So it's like 5 times higher reporting rate in young people after dose 2. When you look at dose 3, you see the same thing, but only in the foreign data, or primarily in the foreign data. So what happened when they removed these entries is that signal went away. So that's what these pharmacovigilance tools are meant to be used for, to detect safety signals. So they're not meant to be like removed so you can't detect them type thing. So it's an ongoing story. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to figure it out. It's just more data buggery, probably full of nefariousness. So yeah, that's what that was all about.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't do just like they do here in Finland. They have stopped reporting. They haven't updated the how many has gone sick from the shots in I think it's just over 3 months now since they last updated.
They just stopped.
Yeah, and that would be the easier way, I guess, instead of trying to remove, and because they has to know there is people like you watching them. It's not a secret.
I guess, you know, what I'm actually working on with a group of people is getting straight answers from the people themselves. We have to at least ask the question, like, what happened here? They have option 1, not to answer, option 2, to answer and lie, or option 3, to answer and tell the truth. So maybe we'll get option 3. I'm the eternal optimist. So yeah.
That's very optimistic. I wouldn't hold my breath for
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, I'm on fire tonight, so I might as well be optimistic. All right. Do you want to call it a night? Because you look like you need to
Yeah, I can go and handle business over here. So
yeah.
promote your Substack and everything you have before you go, and let's call it
All
a day.
right. So yeah, I have two Substacks, jessicar.substack.com and jessica5b3.substack.com. That's the Jessica variant. And I also have a website, Jessica's Universe. You didn't catch my joke, did you?
No, I didn't. I'm all over the place trying to
You have to
focus.
watch the playback.
Yeah, I will do. So yeah, thank you. This was a pleasure, and
Yeah, it was nice
hopefully
meeting you, boy.
my sound is not as shit as was the first time. But have a great day, and see you in the future.
Yeah, anytime you want to catch up, another 6 months.
Let's do that. 6 months. I will send you an email again.
Let's do that.